I'm going to tell you something very painful, but it's true. Most SaaS platforms do not die because of competition. They die because their foundation cannot carry their business weight. They are built on frameworks that were never meant to carry things like finance, compliance, multi-company realities, audits, trust, skill, legal responsibility, and many more things. They look beautiful, yes, but inside they are dying slowly. ERPNext is different because ERPNext, you can think of it as not being software, but rather a business operating system. And today, I will show you how we can build entire SaaS companies on top of ERPNext. What exactly is ERPNext? So what I would say is that very many people think of ERPNext as accounting, inventory, payroll, POS, and of course those other modules that are there. But ERPNext, in my view, is a business engine factory. It allows you to manufacture programmable companies. And every ERPNext site is not just a database. It is a complete digital company, or what you can call a complete engine that can carry money, it can issue invoices, it can keep books, it can enforce laws, it can track assets, it can log evidence, and it can also be audited, not to mention that it can survive legally. So that is why ERPNext carries the power that it does, and that is why we are able to power products that we have built with it, like Trash IQ, Duca Plus, and others. So what is the secret here? So we have one customer, one universe. And see, ERPNext, or rather SaaS, is not multi-companies in one database. Or rather, it's not multiple companies in one database. That is not what you would refer to as SaaS. If you have multiple companies in one database, then that is shared failure, shared risk, shared collapse, and you don't want that. Tenant-Per-Site architecture is what we can say is the one company and one ERPNext site. What that means is that you should have separate database, you should have separate files, you should have separate accounting, separate backups, separate performance, and of course you can separate the legal risk. So if one tenant crashes, your entire SaaS does not. Alright? This is what we can say is the survival architecture of ERPNext. And that is what makes ERPNext a real SaaS engine. How can we think of ERPNext as the engine as the business brain? So the mobile apps that you see, we discussed this in our previous video. The mobile apps that are running on ERPNext, or the portals, and even the dashboards, those are just skins. ERPNext is the brain. ERPNext becomes responsible for things like wallets, payments, subscriptions, commissions, revenue recognition. So if these things are being done by your mobile app or your portal, then something is wrong. So things like revenue recognition, I mentioned that. We look at things like payouts, all right, compliance, approvals, audits, evidence trace, and think about it. Everything that touches on those logics and those things that can put you in trouble, they are supposed to be inside ERPNext. So that puts your mobile app or your portal as just a skin that people interact with. So your SaaS inherits corporate grade finance and law from ERPNext, so it has already been proven. And that is why investors try ERPNext based platforms other than just any other products that you can have. Now, DocTypes are not just database tables. These are legal institutions of your business, right? because these DocTypes define who can touch money, they define who can approve, they define who can audit, who can reverse, what is legal, what is forbidden, and think about all those things. Those things are defined by the DocTypes. And therefore, if you think about it, DocTypes are not just database tables. It is more than that. So what that tells you is that bad DocTypes create broken companies, and the good DocTypes create stable economies. All right? Now, workflows are things that we have interacted with a lot in ERPNext, and these are the constitution of your company. Okay? So, a workflow is the thing that defines, for example, who is allocated to act on some specific task. It defines who can approve specific things, what states are legal and what are illegal, and it also gets you to get things locked forever in the system. So the workflows that you define are the ones that are also going to get you those audit trails. ERPNext allows you to build companies that cannot misbehave. So those stable companies that can survive test of time are what ERPNext is helping many companies build today. All right? I don't have to get that big. So isolation equals survival. And what am I saying? What do I mean by isolation? In isolation, I mean one tenant, one site. And these are the benefits. Number one, we have per tenant backups. Per tenant backups. And why is that important? That's important because it gives you legal survival. Then you have per tenant upgrades. Why is that important? There is no mess of outages or no mess of mass outages. So you are never going to hear that there is mass outages of your system. Then you have per tenant scaling, and why is that important? There is fair performance. And then you have per tenant compliance. And the importance of that is that there is trust and the audit. This is why governments and banks trust ERPNext platforms. All right? The other thing that we can look about is the shift, the mindset shift, especially for developers. Okay? If you are building SaaS on ERPNext, you are not writing apps. You are more than that. You are founding digital nations. You are designing economies. You are building corporate law, and you are designing survival systems. ERPNext is your civilization engine. So you should look at it like that. What you are doing is really great. And how can we then conclude? We can conclude by saying that ERPNext is not just software. It is a factory for building entire digital economies. If you build on it correctly, your SaaS will not just grow, it will survive for decades.